What's going on, everybody? It's your big homie, the armchair operator, and welcome to another video. Now, if you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed today's content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Become a part of the family. We would love to have you. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you also enjoyed today's content. So as you saw in the title and in the thumbnail, we're going to take a look at probably the newest iteration of the Beretta 92 series of handguns, the Beretta 9211 Sabbia. This beautiful work of art right here. Now, full disclosure, this particular firearm was provided to the channel for review by the team over at the Bunker Gun Shop. Big shout out to them, especially my man Frank Bank and Chris. They have been supporters of the channel damn near since day one. And without them, I would not have this beautiful firearm to review here today. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what the 9211 Sabbia is all about. So the Sabbia is basically a single action version of the Beretta 92. Based on their 92 Squalo that they came out with, I think in 2023, maybe about a couple years ago. And also other pistols that came out in their line, which are known as the Corsa, which is essentially this with the red G10 grip panels, and I believe it has a different finish, and it has like a red trigger, and also the Gara, which has the smooth gray grip panels, and it has a more of a gray metallic tone finish. This is basically in that family of handguns, but there are some differences between the two previous models that I mentioned. But before we do anything, let's do a quick clear check. Magazine is empty. This firearm is also empty. And we are filming in a safe and controlled environment. I don't have any ammunition anywhere in my review space. Okay, now on to the pistol. So if this particular handgun looks familiar to you, it basically should. It's almost as if they took a Beretta M9A3 or Beretta M9A4, more the A4 than the A3, and they gave it the single action treatment, upgraded the grip panels, changed the color of the barrel, and kind of decked this thing out to make it a more race worthy pistol. And that's essentially what this is, but it also can flex in a tactical role, duty role as well. So essentially what I'm going to do really quickly, we're going to go on over to the tabletop, and that way I can give you a closer view of this particular firearms feature set, what it comes with out of the box. Just a disclaimer, it doesn't come with the hollow sun or the light. I added these two later on, but like I said, we're just going to take a look at the tabletop. We're going to look at what it comes with out of the box, and then we're going to head on over to the range, and then we're going to do the range portion of the view. All right, so without further ado, let's head on over to the tabletop and take a look at this beauty right here. Okay, everybody, welcome to the review space. We're down here on the tabletop, and we have the Beretta 92 Sabbia, and basically everything that it comes with. Of course, it does not come with the streamlight or the hollow sun on the top here, but let's go through everything really quickly. First, we're going to verify clear once again. Magazine clear. Firearm is clear. Firearm verified clear. And again, we're filming in a safe and controlled environment. Okay, so here we go. Let's start at the top with the gun itself. And when we start at the top, we start with the sights. So as you can see, we got a red fiber optic here, and we have a blacked out rear sight here. Unfortunately, with the optic installed, you don't get a natural co-witness. However, if I do take this optic off, you can use the iron sights with the optics plate mounted on the firearm. Regarding the optics plate, now here's the interesting thing. Remember when I was talking about the Gara and the Corsa, the other firearms that basically are in this particular family? Those models come with compensators, and I'm pretty sure that we've all seen them, but I'll just include a picture of one up here just to kind of illustrate what I mean. It has a threaded compensator and it has the slightly longer recoil spring on the front. This particular model doesn't come with a compensator, but what I did find interesting is that this one came with the optics plate. So now, personally, I love a compensated pistol. However, if I had to choose between a compensator and an optics plate, I would go with the optics plate because I like to be able to mount a dot on my gun when I first get it out of the box. I mean, I get the rationale that a lot of companies use where they basically say you got to send in for the plate. That way you can get the plate that you want and they don't have to spend additional money sending out all these plates and everything that people may or may not need. But me personally, I want to plate with my gun. That's just how I feel. If I have to get another footprint or style of plate, then that's just on me. But anyway, enough of that being said, this came with a plate which I thought was dope, flat out. All right, moving on from there, of course you got this nice FDE Cerakote finish, and to also quote the great John Patton, flat dart dookie. And we have, now this is also interesting, this barrel is black. I don't know if this is DLC coated, but it feels like it has a DLC coat to the barrel. The trigger itself has a DLC finish to it, which also makes this trigger very slick in its operation, but we're going to get to the trigger in a little bit. Of course, you have the threaded barrel. The thread is easy to remove, and that way you can always add a thread-on suppressor. A suppressor, of course, but what I meant to say was a thread-on compensator at a later date. Speaking of that, this particular firearm has a lot of Tony Systems stuff installed. Like, for example, the magwell, that's a Tony System magwell. These are Tony Systems +4 magazine extensions. These magazines are Metgar 18 round magazines, so of course 18 and 4, do the math, that's what you get. But the reason why I wanted to just go back to the Tony Systems really quickly is that you can get their compensator and add to this firearm if you want. Now, I did see some on Beretta's website where you could buy the thread-on compensator, and I believe that is a kit that comes with the longer recoil guide rod. Now, the thing about their compensators is that you will need a longer guide rod to use that thread-on compensator. And essentially, the way it works is that extra bit of length from the guide rod kind of times the compensator to make sure it stays in line with the muzzle of the firearm, which is essentially what you want, and that's how it actually really locks it in and holds it in place. So just kind of be aware of that if you were to buy this or any other full-size Beretta 92 or M9 style pistol and you want to put a compensator on it, you're going to have to get the longer guide rod with the compensator. Anyway, moving on from there, we got our standard controls, and of course with the single action pistols you have the frame mounted safety. This is in the safe position and it's ambidextrous. A lot of people like the frame mounted safeties with these particular Beretta firearms. Personally, I do like the frame mounted safeties. Now, at the same time, I'm no stranger to the Beretta M9, M92 style handguns. Actually, one of my favorite handguns, and my very first 9mm handgun was a Beretta 92FS. I say that to say I have used that fire. I used that firearm when I had it for a lot of years. I've EDC'd it, so on and so forth. Putting the gun on safe was not something that I ran into, and that was mainly because it really came down to the battery of arms and how I manipulated the slide of the firearm. That being said, this does give you that extra bit of security where you don't have to worry about that at all. I mean, when you go to run the slide, you don't have to worry about it putting it on safe accidentally. That being said, you want to be careful that when you're shooting the firearm, you don't hold your thumb in the place where it accidentally knocks it up. Now, in fairness, the way this particular safety is made, I don't think you'll run into that problem too often, or at least I haven't. But since I'm used to running 2011s and 1911s, I just have a natural thumb over the safety grip anyway. So that's just something that I do by default. It's just something that you might want to consider should you decide to go into one of these Beretta style handguns. Moving on from there, we just have a standard magazine release here. Now this is another point where this is different from, say, the Gara or the Corsa. The Gara and the Corsa come with extended magazine releases. This one is just a standard magazine release. Personally, I actually prefer this magazine release because I don't have to worry about accidentally hitting this with my support hand. And sometimes, like for example with the Smith & Wesson M&P, with the competitor model specifically, with the extended magazine release, offhand shooting with that particular gun is very uncomfortable. So I just like the fact that it has the standard magazine release, but you can always source the extended version and replace this with that version if you so choose to do so. All right, moving on from there. Of course, you got your standard 3-slot Picatinny rail. That is pretty much standard with modern Beretta 90 series style handguns. And now we get to the quote-unquote belle of the ball with this gun. We get to this trigger. Now this trigger it's coming in on my trigger gauge at about 5 pounds. Okay, the thing is though, this trigger, even though it's single action, there's a lot of take up before you hit that wall. Now I'm just going to say right off the rip, that may turn some people off, especially in the competition circuit, because some people don't like a lot of pre-travel. And the thing is, if you decide to run this gun as a competition, this is going to be one of the triggers that you're going to want to try to stage. However, when you get to that wall is very defined, and the brake, man, did you see that? Hold on, let me do it again. And now here's the reset. Watch the reset. That's it. It's noticeable, it's tactile, it's easy to find, and then you're just right there at the wall. Boom. So even though this is coming in at about 5 pounds on my trigger gauge, it's a very good single action trigger, at least in my opinion. And when you get used to running this trigger and you get used to finding that wall and that reset, you could really pile up some good shots. So, I mean, all in all, I like the trigger. It could use a little less pre-travel in my opinion, but I do get the reasoning why they added the pre-travel that they added, especially if you wanted to use something like this and carry it cocked and locked and use it as more like a duty sidearm or home defense or EDC or whatever your flavor is. That extra bit of pre-travel does add to the safety of the firearm itself. So, okay. Moving on from there, we have these lock G10 style grip panels, and they're not super aggressive, but they're aggressive and they're great. I really do like these grip panels. I like the way they look, and they really do give you that nice bit of traction in your hand when you're shooting. And of course, we have the nice checkering on the front of the grip here and on the back strap here, like so. And then we come on down here to this Tony Systems magwell. And now here's one thing that I will say right off the bat. And to illustrate, I will use a standard Beretta M9 style magazine. You cannot use these magazines with the standard base plates with the magwell installed. And here's the reason why. You see how it kind of just butts up against there like that? Like it's in the gun, but it's not seated. It's not locked in at all. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're running the magwell, you will need these extensions so that way the magazine can fit up into the gun and lock in. And the main thing, now if you really want to do some backyard gunsmithing work, I don't recommend it, by the way. If you wanted to take that extra bit of a lip off of the base pad, you might, keyword might, get it to fit. But I don't recommend doing that, but I just wanted to say it. So anyway, that's the long and the short of what it comes with out of the box. Of course, you got your trigger lock from Beretta, of course, because of safety, and we have some other things in here. Now, the other thing that it comes with is additional base pads. So if you wanted to run this gun without the +4 base pads on the magazines, you can. You could just take the mag well off and replace the base pads on the magazines and just run it like a standard single action only style Beretta M9. Okay, now this is actually the recoil guide rod that comes in the gun when you get it from the factory. So that kind of brings me to my first bit of criticism regarding this gun. It comes with the standard polymer guide rod. Now, if you're trying to set up a race pistol, you would think that it would be like the 92X, the Beretta 92X, for example. That has a steel guide rod, and I believe the other single action versions like the Corsa and the Guard respectively also have steel guide rods for the recoil spring. Don't quote me on that. So obviously, since this isn't in the gun any longer, we have I know it's pretty juicy in there, but we're not going to worry about that. I put in a Wilson Combat fluted steel recoil guide rod inside of the gun, and I will say that even though this pistol did not be shot well before this change, I gotta say that it shoots noticeably better now that it has a steel guide rod in there. And it also helps this gun to return to zero just a little quicker. It tracks a little bit better. It's just a nice little upgrade that didn't break the bank. It didn't cost a whole lot of money. I think I might have paid 25 coins for this guide rod. I'm not 100% sure, but I can look that up and add that particular part to the video description in case you all wanted to look that up for yourself. All right, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's head on over to the range. This is actually my second range outing with this particular gun. The first time I ran it just bare bones, like just out of the box, and that's some of the B-roll footage that y'all saw in the intro. But this particular portion is actually part 2 of the range evaluation with essentially everything as you see it right now. So without further ado, let's head on over to the range. All right, y'all, welcome to the gun range portion of the review. This is actually my second outing. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the range portion of the review. We got the Sabbia here on the table. This time we're gonna run it with a dot, a light, and we're gonna do some holster draw. It is at 10 yards. I tried to zero when I was in the house, but let's see if it's actually zeroed up. Let's do a few test shots. Say that's a successful test run. So let's load up proper and let's really put some rounds down range. Okay, now that we know that the dot is zeroed, let's put this Sabbia through its paces. Check the target. Pretty damn good if I do say so myself. just having a little bit of fun with it. One thing I did notice that even though the recoil spring is a little stiff on this, it doesn't shoot. Like, it's not snappy at all. It just kind of glides, if that makes any sense. But enough talking. Let's charge up some more magazines. Let's put some more rounds down range. This time, let's go to 15 yards and let's see how we do with some controlled fire, just with some accuracy testing. All right, we loaded up. We're just going to do a little bit of distance shooting. Going to push it out to 15 yards. In case you're wondering, I'm wearing mechanic gloves. The reason being, one of the Berettas, your support hand, or at least mine, it rides kind of on where the tape is. It is gave me one hell of a callus the last time I was out. Or rather, not callus, blister, excuse me. So I'm just going to protect my hand, in case you were wondering. Anyway, this time we're going to go to the head box. Some slow, controlled shots. All right, let's check that target. All right, so this is basically where we're hitting that. Couple misses here, all in here, couple down there. Takeaways. Needless to say, the firearm is very reliable. I'm north of 300 rounds in just between the two range sessions. No issues, none of that. Just for reference, I'm running 124 blades of brass. I've been running that throughout, and I also have some Winchester white box 147 grain. Now that with that being said, I'm going to throw my Omega 9K on there and see how it runs with both supersonic loads and subsonic loads. So give me a moment, I'll be right back. All right, we loaded up again, and I got the Omega 9K on the Beretta. This time we're going to do a mag supersonic, so you can hear how it's in place, and a mag sonic. So without further ado, let's get to it. Not too bad. Get a lot of spalding back in the face with blades of brass, but I guess that's to be expected, especially when running suppressed. All right, let's try the supersonic loads. Sounds good to me. Let's check the target. So for the most part, we hit a couple low shots here and there. Trying to run this thing with gloves is a bit of a challenge though, but I mean, all in all, it does what I needed to do. But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the range portion of this review here. Let's head on back over to the space and check this thing out. All right, welcome back to the review space. So, as you can see, the 9211 Sabbia is a hell of a shooter. It is very well balanced. That trigger, even though it comes in at 5 pounds, it has a very clear defined wall, a short reset, and once you reset, you're like really back at the wall. So like I said, if you train yourself up on that particular trigger, man, you're going to blaze through them stages, man. I'm telling you, you're going to blaze through them stages. And I see why you have some competition shooters out there that are really killing in the competition circuit with single action only Berettas. I may try to run a competition with this particular gun at some point in the very, very near future. Not 100% sure yet. The way it's set up now, I'm not really sure. I think it could go into limited. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still trying to learn the rules of the different divisions. I'm not sure if this is carry optics worthy or limited. I don't know. For my competition shooters, sound off down in the comments and let me know, please. I'm not 100% sure if the mag well has to come off. I know this mag well is smaller than a lot of competition mag wells for a reason, and I think this gun was set up more so for limited optics. But again, let me know down in the comment section. I'm still trying to learn that. But anyway, all in all, when it comes to the gun is a very good gun, and running this thing suppressed was a lot of fun. But of course, I was shooting Blazer Brass on the range, and if anybody knows anything about Blazer Brass, when you try to run suppressed with Blazer Brass, or if you're running either a ported or a comp gun, you will end up getting a lot of crap back to the face. That was kind of the only thing that I didn't like about that shooting experience, but that's not on the gun itself or on the can. It's basically, well, I'll put it like this. That's part of the cost of doing business when you're shooting a suppressed firearm, but that's also a big reason for that was the ammunition type. So that's just something you want to think of if you planning on whatever ammo that you decide to run, okay? But anyway, oh, real quick, let me just give y'all a quick side by side. So here, this is my Beretta M9A4. I did a full review on this on the channel. I'll put a link down in the pinned comments if anybody wants to see this. It's kind of old, but real quick, let's verify clear. As you can see, magazine empty, chamber is empty, and this gun is clear. Now, why am I holding this up? So look at these two right here. Tell me these two don't look like bookends, like pairs, right? They just look damn near identical, right? So I just wanted to give y'all that visual comparison of these two guns. Now here's the thing. This is the double action, single action version of the Beretta. This is an actual Beretta M9A4. Now here's another fun fact. The thing about these 90 series handguns is that they have, it's like they have variants and they have sub variants within variants themselves. Like case in point, this is an M9A4, okay? But look at this right here. This is actually an M9A4 Centurion model. This is based on the 92FS, but this is the full size. So look at the differences. If you can't really see, I'm gonna try to put it up here. Let me try like this here. You see how the barrel and the slide on this particular firearm is slightly shorter than this particular firearm. So that's the difference. Other than that, they're very similar outside of the safety position and the fact that this is double action, single action, and this is single action only. Now, I also bring up the differences between these two guns for this point. Remember when I talked about the compensator earlier? When you're shopping for the compensator, for whatever Beretta series of gun that you're looking for, M92, you get the idea. Make sure you're getting the one for your gun. If you have a full size version like this with the 5.1 inch barrel and the full length slide, you have to make sure that you get the package for this model, because the package for this model will not fit this one. because of the fact that this slide and barrel is slightly shorter. Now, the thing is, the recoil spring length is key in that regard. So just keep that in mind if you decide to get another recoil spring for, say, a Beretta Centurion model, or a full-size model, or a thread-on compensator, whatever you want to do. I mean, outside of that, they're pretty much the same in terms of like the frame and all that, or at least with the full-size guns specifically. But I just wanted to put that out there to help you in your research purposes. But anyway, I think this is a solid gun. 10 out of 10 would recommend if you are a fan of the Beretta M92 M9 series. And I like this gun so doggone much, I actually bought it for myself. But anyway, what do y'all think about the Beretta M9A4 or the M90, the 92 series, the 9211 series? Sound off down in the comments section, y'all. Let's get this discussion popping. Do you compete with the gun? Have you ever carried it for duty? Have you ever carried it, you know, as a member of the armed forces? Let me know your Beretta experiences down below. And as always, y'all, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. This is your big homie, the Armchair Operator, and I'm signing out, y'all. Peace.